Right, where were we? Ah yes, Tyranid turn 2. This is the turn where the Tyranid formation and strategy of the catapulted fort that I implemented succeeded to a degree, but later on you'll point out why the strategy didn't entirely work. Now, as you can see at the back, all three of the spore pods carrying their deadly cargo turned up, along with a Trigon, and towards the edge of the screen at the bottom you can see the Hive Tyrant and the Venomthropes turning up. The only ones that failed to turn up were the Tyranid Warriors and the Turbogon. And that was it for the Tyranid movement phase. Right, now for the Tyranid shooting phase, which I had hoped would have been a really good one, but being a game of dice and luck, this game really didn't turn in my favour. As you can see towards the bottom, the Tyrant tried to fire his Venom Cannon at the Raider carrying the Witches and the Succubus. He missed. In the middle you can see the Warriors and the Spore Pod were attacking the Talos. They failed to do enough damage. I think they only ever caused one wound. The Zoanthropes hiding at the back used their psychic power to make a warp blast on the Cabalite Warrior squad, in the vain hope of doing enough damage to get rid of them. The first blast missed, and the second blast just hit, and the Dark Eldar Warriors just took cover saves. On the other side, though, the Trigon expected the Carnifex to do some decent damage, and just targeted the Cabalite Warrior squad over there. As I can see from this one, I should have targeted the big priority targets such as the Ravager or the Ravenwing with the Trigon, because he would have done enough shots to have at least done some significant damage. The Carnifex, however, as I said, tried to use a Bioplasma on the Ravenwing. That scattered and missed both the Ravenwing and the Talos. Meanwhile, it used its twin-link Devourers. Those hit and managed to do one attack on the back. The second attack was blocked by the Flicker Field, and I only managed to do a total damage of 1 on the chart. And as you can see, this bit is the game changer. Now is Dark Eldar turn 3, or as I will otherwise call it, the turn of the Dark Eldar Retribution. Here we can see the big movement arrow of the Dark Eldar Ravenwing taking a great big swooping flight around and avoiding the Tyranids. The Raider moved up, deposited the Succubus and the Witches. The Venom took the Incubi back and prepared to shoot, and the Incubi, if you can see them, jumped out of their little safety hole and were starting to move towards the Tyranid main battle line. And if you haven't noticed, but there are 3 new models on the board, and those 3 models are his 3 Dark Eldar jet bikes. Right, as you can see in this phase, there was a lot of damage dealt in return by the Dark Eldar line. Now, as we can see in the top of the screen, the 2 purple lines streaking over to a large blast, the bright pink ones I should say, are the Bright Lancers coming from the Ravager in the middle of the table towards the Tyrant on the far right. Again, a Raider used another Dark Lance and further removed another wound off the Tyrant, and at the end of that, the Witches and the Succubus removed a further wound from the Tyrant, gaining a pain token in the end. Now on the other side of the table, most of the fire was focused upon the Trigon. Practically all the poisoned weapons and lance weapons that were available fired on the Trigon and removed it from existence. The Carnifex also received a couple of wounds, mainly from Dart Lance and a Splinter Cannon. The Stinger Pod from the Talos tried to target both the... it didn't initially try to target both, but where it landed it would always target both the Warriors and the Spore Pod. One scattered onto the Spore Pod and one scattered off the Spore Pod and into the Tyranid Warriors. Made all the saves that were available, 2 wounds on the Warriors, 1 wound on the Tyranid Mycetic Spore. And that was it for the end of the Tyranid army. Yes, that was the end of the Tyranid army. Because most of my strength and my firepower was eradicated then and there. On the other hand, luckily the Raven Wing was out of order, so he couldn't finish off my army earlier. But as you can see, the Trigon and everything else really didn't stand that much of a chance. But at least I didn't have to go into close combat with my Tyrant. Now, as we can see here, this was the Dark Eldar charging bit, and as ever guessed, the Talos decided to charge into the Warriors. He got into close combat. Using those chain flails, my friend Adam managed to roll a 6 on one of the dice and basically used all 8 attacks. Hit with a few, wounded a few, and he removed 2 of my Warriors from the squad. Then after that I took further damage because of my fearless ability. So I knew that that fight was lost anyway, and I didn't stand that much of a chance against the Talos.